So I'm glad everybody's here. It's nice to see all your smiling faces. And thank you for coming. I would like to introduce Jean Burnett, who teaches our Tai Chi class here on Monday mornings at 9:30. Come and join us. It's a wonderful class in our new facility. And without further ado.
Thank you. Okay, Tai Chi. What is Tai Chi? What I tell people when they start Tai Chi in the beginning is welcome to the argument. Because like every other field of human endeavor, there is always a big argument and a fight about what it is and what it isn't and where it came from and what it's not. And, oh, it can get so tedious and dogmatic. But I'm going to just give you my take on it and just express it as such. It's not the way it is, it's just the way I see it. Tai Chi is this, this is a Tai Chi symbol, which I'm sure you've all seen. The yin and yang. That is a symbol of, to me, unforced balance. In other words, it's a balance that's intrinsic in things. It's not a balance that you have to hold and attain and make right. It's a balance that's naturally there. And according to at least some strains of Chinese thought, this is in everything. The Tai Chi is in everything. Everything in the universe is a balance between the hard and the soft, and the positive and the negative, the masculine and the feminine, if you will. So this is a principle of nature, that underneath all this complexity and all this apparent craziness, if you see through it enough and see deeply enough, you'll just see this. You'll just see this dance of yin and yang energies in its ultimate unforced balance. Just like you can't destroy any part of matter, all you can do is transfer it to something else. You can change it to energy, you can change it to another kind of matter, but you can't get rid of it. And you can't make any new matter. At least we can't. Maybe the universe can in some far reaches somewhere, but we can't. So this is unforced balance in the sense this we'll call Tai Chi. Okay, now TaiChichuan, well, I'm going to spell this the old-fashioned way, I guess. I don't know. TaiChichuan, this means boxing, or fist. This means supreme ultimate. So sometimes people translate it as supreme ultimate fist, which sounds like we have the best fist. It's supreme, it's ultimate. No, supreme ultimate principle of the underlying harmony of yin and yang energies in unforced balance. Fist. Which is a mouthful, right? So I just call it unforced balance boxing, or just balance boxing. It's a martial art based on this principle. So how that martial art came to be, we could talk for hours. But basically it's a combination of the Qigong tradition in China, which is slow motion, breathing exercises designed to cultivate bodily energies and to improve your health and balance. And, largely based on animal movements, because animals don't have headaches and aren't trying to improve their lives all the time, and they don't worry about things. And people all over the world, indigenous people, imitate animal movements to try to get some of their power and their freedom. So in Africa, you have people dressing like birds. In South America, snakes and Native Americans, bears and hawks and chickens and all kinds of stuff. You imitate their way they move, and hopefully you get a little bit of what they've got, which is this unforced balance, So that tradition married with the martial tradition. So martial arts and fighting, putting those two together so that you have a martial art that's based on this principle of harmony with nature and balance. So they came up with exercises to help us do this. Exercises known as forms, or just straight up exercises. Some of the forms are partner drills and partner work and martial stuff, and some of them are that you do by yourself, like when you see the videos of hundreds of people in China doing these soft movements together. Those are forms. Some people see Tai Chi as a bunch of forms to be perfected, and they have tournaments about how perfect your form is, and it's all about the form. And other people see it more as principles to be embodied. And the form is not the Tai Chi, it's a way to get you to those principles. That's the way I look at it. Other people are different, and that's their view. This is true of dance and all kinds of art forms. There are people that get obsessed with the form, massage or whatever, and then there are people that say, well, the form is a vehicle, it's important, but it's a vehicle to these principles. And the ultimate principle is this, unforced balance. So if you're using too much force, or if you're too yang or too yin, then you're out of the Tai Chi kind of realm, and so you want to bring it together. So we have different forms and exercises that we're using to hopefully embody this principle right here, unforced balance. So within this, I like to break this work down a little bit because this is complicated. I could just hold this up and say, move like that. $50, please. You know? So I like to divide it up into bone, muscle, energy, and spirit. These are levels of work. They're not belts. They're not like levels of attainment, like you get to the top and then you don't have to do it anymore. Bone level work is about taking your skeleton and aligning it. Because without an aligned skeleton, whatever you do is going to be damaging your joints. So this is part of the health aspect of this, but also the martial aspect of it. If I'm in a fight and my knees are all collapsed and twisted, those are going to go first. So it helps you martially and it helps you just in your health. So bone level work is adjusting your posture and your skeleton. You can apply that to anything you do. If it's massage, it's learning the strokes, learning the names, learning how not to hurt people, what to do when. And the maneuvering of your hand, your alignment, your relationship to the table. If you're cooking, bone level work is adhering to the recipe and learning the ingredients and having them on hand, and all this basic stuff. So when you're in bone level, you're adhering to the basics. It's like a kid getting his first driving lesson, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, mirror check, all that stuff. That's bone level work. Muscle level work is where you make it smoother and effortless and graceful, and that would be doing those strokes with no speed bumps, doing them in a relaxed, even way, or driving comfortably, or playing a song. Bone level is the notes. Muscle level is smoothly playing the notes, right? So it's about appropriate use of muscle, not too much, not too little. If you use too little or too much, you're going to get hurt. Energy level work is about unifying the muscles and bones and feeling your whole body with your breathing. It's like playing the song with feeling. It's like doing the massage and actually caring about who's you're massaging and what is the intent of each stroke to relate to that whole person. If you go right to that without any attention to smoothing the strokes out, without any attention to your posture, it's possible that your intent would be so strong that they would get a nice massage, but you would need one after. Because your knees would be all messed up and your muscles would be tense. And if you ever take a massage class with Joanne, she's always saying, softer, relax, line this up, use your whole body, don't grip. I don't want to see bulging muscles, like the cliched movie from the 60s. The massage therapist comes in, it's always some huge German woman, Yeah, Helga will fix, No, we're not good. Spirit level is when you're just one with what you're doing, when you just are this. And I don't believe in teaching this, because I don't think it can be taught. Because you're not there if you're doing this. So if you're there, who's teaching it and who's learning it? That's what I want to know. So this to me is pointed at, but it's not taught. Be one with everything. Really? One with everything? Me? One with that? It's like, if there's two things in the world, you're not doing this. Okay? So this comes and goes by itself. These levels we can work on. We can always work on our posture. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I make postural corrections all the time. Not as many as when I started. Muscle level work, you can always do that. You can always look at how much tension am I using here? Or am I weak and collapsed? Can I use a little more energy? Can I use a little bit less? Energy level work, connecting through my joints and my breath to feel my whole body as a unit. What's the intent of this movement? You can always work on that. So these aren't belts. These are just different levels of work. Ultimately, it's this. Ultimately, it's one. The physicists will tell you basically you cannot really separate objects. They're all in relationship to each other. Tell me where the roots of a tree end exactly and the dirt begins. Where does the air begin and the leaf end? They're interpenetrated with each other. And where would the tree be without gravity, water, nutrients, all kinds of things? Nothing exists independently, especially Tai Chi. Tai Chi is in a sense an attempt to symbolically say this is all one. But it's also not one, because can I have your car? We're also separate. So there's a separateness to things, but it's within a context of this oneness. When you drop into that oneness, then you have one of these spiritual experiences, which is nice, but it's hard to quantify and hard to teach and hard to hold on to, because if you notice you're doing it, you're not doing it. So forget about that. Let that come and go by itself. But these things are important. Muscle, bone, and energy. Those are important in terms of your health and your balance. Now, Tai Chi is originally a martial art, a fighting martial art used for combat. A couple of things made combat less necessary. Guns and the criminal justice system. We have designated enforcers, designated people to deal with violence, and courts and laws, and it became less and less important to defend yourself on a regular, everyday basis. And guns, of course, cancel out, whoa, like the famous scene in Indiana Jones when the guy comes out with the thing, and boom, you can kind of cancel that stuff out. So it's still somewhat needed depending on where you live. If you live in a tough urban area, self-defense skills might be more necessary. But overall, they're less necessary in terms of everyday survival. So those health aspects, the Qigong aspects, started to become more and more and more important. And so now you have people who are kind of health-focused in their Tai Chi, and you have people who are very martial-focused in their Tai Chi. And sometimes there's some sniping between the two. Like, oh, you guys are hard and violent, we just believe in mystical Qi and stuff, and oh, you guys aren't strong, aren't young enough. You guys are deluded, mushy, tofu Tai Chi, you're all woo. So I like to bridge the two and say that even if you're doing Tai Chi for health, you can still see it as a martial art. And here's how. Okay, so let's draw a pyramid. And this is what I call the change pyramid. Down here are very slow changes. These are medium-sized changes, and these are fast changes, and these are very fast changes. Okay? So what is balance? But dealing with change and adjusting to it so that you're still in balance, right? You have to make corrections if you want to be in balance. If you look at the people with the best balance in the world, which I would think would be like tightrope walkers, people who walk between buildings and stuff, an expert makes a lot of small corrections. The hand is just vibrating with corrections. They go a millimeter this way, they correct. A beginner makes a small number of really big corrections. And this is the difference between experts and novice in almost every field, the size and frequency of the corrections. If you're making lots and lots and lots of tiny, tiny corrections in your juggling, in your massage, in your music, in your Tai Chi, then you're approaching an expert level. If you're making very few but ginormous corrections, like, oh, sorry, I jammed my hand into your kidney, I didn't mean to do that. then you're more of a beginner, right? So you have to make corrections. Now life is happening and it's changing and you're changing. We're all different than when we showed up here. So we're all changing, life is changing, and we have to make adjustments to those changes. And that's where being aware of your muscles, your bones, your energy, somewhat your spirit is important, because if you don't notice your shoulders coming up, if you don't notice your body tensing up, you're losing an opportunity to correct, and you're becoming less and less imbalanced, but you don't even know it. I mean, how many times have you seen someone walking down the street that just looks angry as hell, and you talk to them and they don't think they're angry. They're like this, or they're scared all the time, or they've got all this unconscious stuff going on because they're not aware of what's going on in their bodies. So attending to these levels, Tai Chi can just be a study of your own well-being, right? The slowest changes are the sneakiest ones. You have tons of time to deal with them. It's like a punch that starts here and it's going to take 20 years to get to your face. And so you think, oh, I've got time. So the slow changes that everybody has to deal with are time, and time plus gravity, right? Here's a little person here. Gravity is pushing down all the time. So gravity is coming down on you all the time. If you lived on the moon for a while and then you came here, you would feel like you were in a martial situation 24/7. There'd be someone pushing on your head all the time. So it's martial just to be a human being in gravity. And those slow changes, time gravity working on your body, the aging process. Those are changes everybody has to face. So part of what I'm doing here with this pyramid is saying this is everyone. Everyone needs to deal with this. Nobody escapes these slow changes of time and gravity unless you're dead. You're escaped. But if you're still alive, so I tell my students, the sneakiest opponents you're ever going to face are not ninjas rappelling from the trees. It's time and gravity. Look at older people, and you'll see what happens if you pay attention to this and if you don't. If you pay attention to bone, muscle, and energy, and you don't. You see people in China who are 90 years old who are still doing martial arts forms and running acupuncture clinics and doing all kinds of cool stuff, and then you see people who can hardly move. So, time and gravity. Slow. So you can see Tai Chi, in other words, attending to these things here, with an eye towards embodying this, as you in a martial situation against an extremely slow opponent, who will get to you and will beat you down and put you in the hospital, maybe even eventually kill you. But you'd like that to be a little later than sooner. But like that punch is coming so slowly, but it's going to arrive. Okay? If you get old enough, balance will become very, very, very important to you. To most old people, balance is a significant issue every day, and they think about it all the time, because falling down can be the beginning of the end. So your friends fall and they end up in the hospital, you can break a hip. It can be very serious to fall. If you're lucky and you live long enough, balance will become very high on your priority list. So I say, do the old person in your future a favor and start now. Say to your old guy in the future, I got this one. I'm going to take care of your posture for you. Right? So now you have medium changes. This is something that fewer of us have to deal with. These are things like distracted walkers, on the texting, and people driving, and physical objects, your workplace, the stuff that you have to deal with every day in your life. That happens a little bit quicker. I'm not talking about the long haul of having a desk job for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years and gradually your posture gets worn down. I'm talking about things that occur a little bit quickly. So this is not the punch that takes 3 years to get there, but it might be a punch that takes about this amount of time to get there. So it's like someone walking at you and you have to negotiate that, or you're riding your bike and you get a flat tire, or some, things that happen in the medium speed level. So you can attend to these things with an eye towards dealing with stuff like that. I've caught a plate on my foot. Like it just slips off the counter and I caught it on my foot. I didn't want to break that plate, so I wanted to maintain my balance and catch that plate. So stuff like this is also worth attending to these things. It's a slower fist, but it's a lot faster than this one. This one is going to take 50 years to get to you. This one might take a minute. So we start to get faster. When you get up into here, now you're talking about things that not as many of us have to deal with that frequently. This is something that requires that you act pretty quickly. Like somebody freaks out in a store and grabs a baseball bat and starts wrecking things. Or someone's coming at you physically in some way. Maybe not a combat situation, but things are happening a little bit faster. You get a really bad phone call. Someone you love is in real serious trouble, or you get the bad diagnosis, or you need to have surgery, or serious things can happen that can throw you off balance. And again, attending to your posture and where your muscles are and what your joints are doing and what your breathing is doing and your well-being and your balance can really come in handy when the, stuff hits the fan here. Up here at the top is combat. I mean, this is where things are coming really, really fast. These are super fast changes. Combat or emergency situations, like, earthquakes. Buildings are collapsing. Someone's attacking you physically. Your home is being invaded. I mean, these are things that very few people have to deal with, especially around here in a nice small rural town. This is the changes are coming super, super fast. And again, having some knowledge of these things can be really helpful if you train at that level. So everyone can do this. Everyone can train their muscles and bones and skeleton and their joints to deal better with gravity. In a martial, with a martial frame of mind. This is an opponent who is pushing down on you, so aligning with it and learning to deal with it. This here is something that, fewer people have to deal with, but most of us will have to deal with some medium level changes at some point. Up here, fewer and fewer, and up at the top, combat, very few. So what level should you train? These are just slow motion Tai Chi forms, no big deal. Here you might be starting to introduce some of the partner work, pushing hands and learning to deal with another person trying to move your balance. Here you're starting to deal with combat exercises and learning to deal with changes coming at you pretty fast, you know. And then up here, this is combat level training. As you go higher on this thing, speed and intensity and injury risk go up. When you want to train for combat, you're risking injury because you need to train at that speed and intensity. And to me, the reason to train for this up here at the top is because you have to or because you like to. If this is your thing, if you just like training that fast, if you like being martially ready for a super fast combat situation, it just gets, that's just where you're excited, that's where it makes you alive, then great. Or if you have to, you live in a tough urban environment or a military war zone or a place where combat skills are necessary or likely to be necessary, great. Same with all of these, really. You want to, you like it, or it's necessary. I think this is necessary for everybody. Personally, that punch is going to get there. And the more attention you put on these things and this thing while you're younger, the less trouble aging is going to be. But every level up the thing, I personally am right around in here. I like martial training games, I like martial arts, I like moving a little faster, I like being able to deal with changes that are coming a little bit fast. I maybe think hypothetically about what would happen up here, but I don't train at this level. The combat level is serious. If you say, I can help you in a fighting situation, I can train you to defend yourself in combat, well, you have better been through some combat. Otherwise, I mean, would you trust an electrician who had never wired a house before? But I've read a lot of books. I mean, you know, you've got to be doing this, and I've been in a fight since I was in 7th grade, so I don't know about this. I can't teach this. I can point to it, I can show you stuff that will help up here, but you need to find someone who's training at that level and train you at that level. So I'm in here. I like this, but I'm also here, of course. I mean, I love showing people how to just become better aligned with gravity and dealing with the slow changes. So I'm in this realm here. So it's important to be honest, I think. There's loads of people claiming to teach this who have never been in a fight. They say this works. How do you know it works if you haven't tried it? You know, I know stuff works down here because I'm 57 years old. I've gotten older, and my knees feel great, and I'm in shape, and and I can tell you a little bit about gravity, and I've dealt with all kinds of issues, and I know something about it, right? And in here, I know a little bit more, but up here, not that much. So I'm not going to tell you I can help you deal with a fist coming at your face super fast from somebody jumping out of a tree. No. So this is a way to look at it that makes it's all martial in the sense that it's self-defense and it's physical, but it's varying degrees of combat, varying degrees of speed, of change. But overall, it's all still about dancing with that change, relaxing with that change, moving with that change, adapting to that change, and maintaining as much of this balance as you can while that's going on. So the exercises are solo exercises you do by yourself, and then there's partner work, and then there's weaponry, which is also both partner and solo. So our weapons are like a long double-edged sword or a curved single-edged sword or a walking cane, and they're not so that you can be a sword fighter. They're to teach you more about this, to help you deal with change, because you pick up a piece of metal or wood and make it alive, make it part of your body. That is hard. Your balance has to go deeper. You're correct. These levels of understanding of your body have to go deeper. So they're all just tools to learn more about that. When you do it by yourself, the big change is the next movement in the form and gravity. Gravity is coming down, so I have to arrange myself a little differently in this position than I do, say, in this position or in this position. So if my head is forward, gravity gets in here. But if my head is forward in another position, maybe not so bad. So you have to adjust to that pressure of gravity so that it's going through your body evenly. One of the big health benefits of Tai Chi is that when force comes to your body in the form of gravity or a trip or a hit or a push or whatever, it's dispersed throughout your body rather than one place. Anytime the force goes to one place, injury risk goes up. Same when you're working. If I'm working something and I'm working like this and the energy goes to one place, the tension is in one place, then again, injury goes up. Repetitive stress, right? One place. but use my whole body to do that same motion, the stress is spread out. So one of the things we do is we spread stress out in our body, whether it's impact or whether it's work. Right? So these exercises are just about dealing with change at increasing speeds, maybe, and learning more about the unforced balance and learning more about these things over here. So Tai Chi can be a study of your body in relation to gravity, dealing with very slow changes, or it can be a little bit more martial, dealing with medium-sized changes, or it can be very combat-oriented, dealing with really fast changes. But to me it's all martial, in the sense that it's physical and it's self-defense. And it's all pressure tested. This is pressure tested by gravity in your health, in your well-being, in your body. Because when these are aligned, you feel good. And when these are not aligned, you don't feel good. So using your own study of yourself, how am I feeling and why, there, that's the pressure test. These are pressure tested by life and by opponents and practice partners pushing on you and changing you. Pressure tested. Can I still keep my balance while someone is trying to take it away? And this, of course, is pressure tested in the ring or on the street or in combat situations. When you put pressure on a system, the weakest links buckle first, right? Doesn't matter if it's a marriage or a company or a person or what. You put pressure on it and what's weak fails. You got a great company, it's running really well, but communications are sloppy. Put a lot of pressure on that company, and those sloppy communications are going to suddenly result in real trouble. So whatever the weakness is, it'll show up. So we pressure test it gradually until we have a deeper and deeper experience of that unforced balance. So I thought I would just give you a little opportunity to feel in a microcosm way what that feels like. So I invite you, if you want to just stand up in front of your chair, wherever you are, and stand, if you can, with your feet about as wide apart as your shoulders. I can't even see your feet, and I can't obviously correct this many people, so I'm just going to tell you words and do your best. So look down at your feet. Notice make the insides of your feet parallel, and your feet are about shoulder width apart. Bend your knees a little bit. Good tip in life, never stand with locked legs unless it's an absolute emergency. If you notice that you're the kind of person who stands with your legs locked like this with your pelvis forward, you can do the old person in your future a big favor by bending your knees and letting your pelvis go back a little bit like you were sitting in a chair. Instead of knees back, pelvis forward, sit knees forward, pelvis back. And you're springy there, right? So gravity comes down, right? You can deal with gravity like two pogo sticks. Yeah. When your legs are stiff, guess what? Your low back has to do that. And the low back is not a good shock absorber. The knees are. So our feet are flat, shoulder width, knees are bent, inner thighs rounded. Sit into that crease here at the hip crease, so like you're riding a horse. Tailbone tucks just a little bit underneath. Imagine someone grabbed your ribs front and back and just lifted an inch. And imagine someone just pushed your chin down and pushed your nose back. And then shrug your shoulders a little bit out to the side. There. That's a bone level description of just a basic neutral posture. Now relax and soften all of your muscles that aren't needed to hold you up. So you think of being a little bit sleepy, or maybe a little bit drunk. Just a little, just a glass of wine. A little heavy. Now don't let that get into your posture, or you have to go back and do bone level work. So you're still kind of riding a skinny horse there. You still have your knees bent, you still have your upright spine. It's just that your muscles are softer and a little heavier. So if you were a parade balloon blown up to maximum inflation, this is pulling the plug on the balloon and going to less so. Now start to wiggle your fingers a little bit and transfer your weight back and forth a little bit. And then let that go into your elbows and wrists, and let your arms start to feel like seaweed. You're just kind of floating around. So now your joints are starting to suspend a little bit. So you're bridging muscles and bones through the joints. If a joint is limp, your hand will fall asleep. You can't do anything with it, and you can't feel anything with it. If it's tight and tense, again, it falls asleep. You can't do anything with it, you can't feel anything with it. The yin and yang of nerves. Sensory nerves bring feeling in. Yang motor nerves give us the opportunity to move. So if you keep the joint a little bit open, just as suspended, you have to be willing to look a little woo-woo for this part. But all this joint suspension can be within a more martial position. Like inside this position, my joints can still be floating and moving. So the idea is we want to have a bone level posture first. We want to relax the muscles, and then we want to float the joints a little bit. So if you think of a little man made of cork or a little woman made of cork, and the legs are corks and the body is corks, and you had a string in there and you pull that string tight, that's your bone level posture. Now loosen the string. That's your muscle level relaxation. Now pull the string up a little bit, not as much as it could be, and then set the little person in water. That's your energy work or your joint work, where things are connected, right? So now just to give you an idea of a little pressure test of this, transfer your weight to one side, keep your joints open, keep your posture, that's good. Now just lift the heel of the leg that doesn't have the weight. Lift it till there's just the toe touching. And then if you can, lift it off the ground if you don't think you're going to fall over. Just having the toe barely touching is good too. So that's a little pressure test. Do you still have your posture? Do you still have your soft muscles? Are your joints still slightly moving and relaxed? Can you do that on one leg? Right, so that's a pressure test. Try the other leg. Shift to the other leg. Lift the other heel just a little bit, and then lift it higher, and then if you can take it off the ground. Yeah, see if you have that. That's a little pressure test, and you might notice, what is your weak link? Is it your hip? Is it your ankle? Is it your overall posture? Do your shoulders come up? So we add a little pressure to the system, and then you start to feel like where your balance is a little weak. So a really simple thing you can do while your water's boiling, or your toast is toasting, or your soup is cooking, or whatever, or there's a commercial on TV, or if you sat online for a while, is just stand up. Feet are shoulder width apart, parallel, knees a little bent, inner thighs rounded a little bit, sit into that crease, tuck your tail a little bit, lift your ribs and head a little bit, float your arms, and then relax first, relax before floating, then float a little bit. And just kind of hang out in this situation where you feel like a puppet, like a lead puppet is the way I like to put it. I'm on strings, so I'm made of lead, really heavy, but the puppeteer is supporting me. So I feel heavy and light at the same time. Or like seaweed is a nice example. You could think of yourself as seaweed. And then if you want to test it a little bit, just go to one leg. And then lift that foot off the ground and see if you still have it, an unforced place where you don't need to tense up or do anything special. And then go to the other one. Yeah, make corrections. And gradually, your corrections can become smaller and smaller until they're almost invisible. You'll just feel like you're barely correcting at all. And it's just a simple way to establish the unforced balance and then test it, right? And we do this in the form. We go through a series of movements. You know, each movement has a martial application. Each movement has a physical purpose, which you don't necessarily have to take to combat. You can just think of it as another exercise you're doing. But if your teacher knows what they are, that's helpful because they can teach you to transfer your weight efficiently. And if you know what the application is, even if you don't want to use it way up here at very fast combat level, it's helpful. It's helpful to understand the physical function of the movement because otherwise it just becomes whatever. You could make up your own movements. But these have very specific purposes. So that's just a little example. All of our solo forms, right, they all keep pressure testing this unforced balance deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Can you do it during a 5-minute form or during a 10-minute form, or can you do it for an hour? Can you do it when you're doing all kinds of different movements and different angles and different stuff? And can you do it when you have a partner? And like, if I borrow Samara a little bit, we have exercises where we're trying to upset each other's balance a little bit. So she might be trying to find a way to get me off balance, and I might be trying to find a way to get her off balance, and I might test it a little more. Yes. So so we can get into like a little bit of a contest with it, or we can just be cooperative with it, or if we can, or we might have a more martial set where if you come a little forward, like over here maybe. So I'm coming with a punch, and she's doing a block, and I'm coming in with something else, and she's coming in here, and I'm trying to, we're working. This is choreographed, but we're working on dealing with those changes that are coming a little bit faster and a little more directly, like here it comes, I can't wait for that for 50 years and work on the posture. I have to deal with it a little bit faster. So all the training exercises in the system are just pressure testing this and seeing how deep it can go. And it can go all the way to here if you wanted to. Here, this is everybody. Everybody can do it at this level if you're reasonably healthy. then in here, as you go faster, it's fun. I like this. This is fun to test it at this point because I like it. But this is also fun for a lot of people. A lot of people, like, this is as far as they want to go. You guys can sit down. This is as far as they want to go. So whatever level of speed and intensity you want to take it, these principles still apply. So this is how I bridge the martial and the health-oriented Tai Chi. As long as you're dealing with gravity and learning to do it correctly and testing it with your own health and well-being, then you're doing martial Tai Chi, whether or not you can throw a punch or kick or deal with a combat situation or not. This is like I said, this is where I like to hang out because that's a lot of fun for me. So are there any questions? We have a class Monday morning, 9:30 to 10:30. It's $10 drop-in fee. The first part of the class, we just work on simple exercises that anybody can do, just to give you a taste of Tai Chi principles. And then we are working on a short, simplified form. And if you just showed up, you would be in the deep end a little bit. You'd have to follow along and catch up with us a little bit. But it's different every time, and we're just kind of feeling our way through that simplified form. The main thing I do is teach private lessons, and I'm in Lithia Park in the band shell most mornings. All weather. We were out there the other day in the wind and the rain. It was awesome. And so, anyone have any questions about anything I've said? Or okay. All right. Let me just check my notes and see if there's anything essential that I forgot to mention. No. Man, I covered it all. All right, excellent. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you drop in some Monday. You don't have to commit to the whole thing. Just come by.